fuck the intro tonight. The New England Patriots shock the world, go into Buffalo and take down the Bills. Drake Maye is officially him. Leads a game-winning drive there. Andy Borregala's game-winning field goal. Stefon Diggs' revenge game. 23-20 Patriots. Let's get right into this breakdown. I think you got to start this game recap off with the Drake Maye to Stefon Diggs connection. Obviously, offense was moving the ball well, but that really was the dynamic duo that pushed this team over the top, and they relied on that matchup completely to really gain a huge chunk of yardage in this matchup. Like I said before, Drake Maye finished 22 of 30, and 10 of his 22 completions came to Stefon Diggs, who had himself 10 receptions on 12 targets for 146 yards. And he absolutely balled out. You could tell it meant a lot to him in this game. You saw him practically hyperventilating on the sideline, talking everyone up. And boy, did he come out the ball tonight. I actually saw a stat. He's the first Patriots wide receiver since 2018 Julian Edelman to have back-to-back 100-yard games. And Stefon Diggs certainly deserves a game ball tonight, as does Drake Maye. But my goodness, those two really were connecting well. And I really love how Josh McDaniels is using Stefon Diggs here, whether you're putting him in the slot, putting him out wide. He's just finding ways to really put him in positions where him and Drake Maye are continuing to develop that chemistry, especially on the outside type of throws. We saw tonight that play where Drake Maye got out of the pocket and really was kind of navigating his receivers down the field. Just a great job by Stefon Diggs to keep his route going on Tre'Davious White. And then what strong hands he had to come down with that football right along the sideline there to set the Patriots up on a scoring drive. But that's really showing the established chemistry between these two guys. And we saw last week on that back shoulder throw on the Panthers, but just the more and more these guys are playing together, the more and more chemistry that they are getting. I mean, he had a multitude of sideline catches where Drake Maye was extending the play, and just the communication and chemistry between them on man versus zone plays. Even on the Stefon Diggs drop early on in this game, just the man coverage, Drake Maye does a real nice job of throwing the ball behind Steph so he doesn't take a big hit over the middle. And that was the one blemish on Stefon Diggs' game there, that drop there, a little back shoulder slant route that unfortunately he didn't come down with. But you just see all the confidence that Drake Maye has in Steph Diggs on going to him on third downs and stuff like that, especially against man coverage. That quick slant has been a go-to kind of target on third down and short for these two guys there, and they've converted several of those passes early on in the season. But against zone, Stefon Diggs is such a crafty route runner and just has all the experience of a veteran receiver to really sit down in the soft spots of those zones, especially across the middle of the field. And tonight, he was making people miss left and right, which is just such a good sign coming off ACL injury. Of course, he's shifting. I mean, he looked like he was explosive tonight, and whether it was just this game specifically, but if this is the Diggs you get for the rest of the year, this is like a true wide receiver one, especially in this system, just because of how versatile he is. And with him and Drake continuing to develop this chemistry, it's only going to help Drake Maye's development. But moving over specifically to Drake Maye on the night, man, I think this might have been his best game overall. He just played so composed, did everything you really asked of him, was making plays, no turnover-worthy plays there. And it's just such a good sight, especially on his first primetime national game here, that he takes advantage of that spotlight and puts up a really good game like he did today. He leaned heavily on Stefon Diggs, but it's not like he was the only one who was getting involved. Hunter Henry had a couple nice catches across the middle of the field. Kayshon Boutte had some really nice third down catches. Of course, he had that one where he stretched across to kind of extend that play early on, or extend that drive early on in the first half. But that throw to the right boundary sideline on the final drive to set up that real field goal from Andy Borregales, that was just an absolute bullet from Drake to Kayshon Boutte. And that's one of his favorite throws, as we know. If you'd watch Drake Maye on the Patriots, it's that right sideline throwing down the field. He loves that throw. And boy, did he uncork an absolute bullet there to Kayshon Boutte. But just the smart play of Drake Maye in this game, taking what he can get. And you also saw the plays that make him special. And in particular, I'm thinking of that play to really set up the final scoring drive right before the 2-minute warning to get the drive going. Drake Maye is literally stiff-arming a defensive lineman and is still able to get enough on the throw to hit Stefon Diggs, who made a guy miss and is able to jumpstart that drive there. But the balance that we've really been preaching as Patriots fans for how special he is between the explosive plays and the turnover-worthy plays, he just did such a nice job tonight. And the situational awareness was massive. I thought that his pocket awareness early on in the game, I felt like he was feeling the rush a little bit, wasn't looking down the field, and the announcers kind of called it out on it. Chris Collinsworth was like, hey, there's some open guys here and the plays need to be made. But Josh McDaniels did a better job of him getting him out of the pocket, not making him feel the rush that much. And from there, he was just able to make all the plays that really allowed the Patriots to jumpstart and get this offense going. And especially in the second half, I thought they made the adjustments of just getting Drake Maye out on the move, whether it was through bootlegs or straight up just kind of shifting the protection and stuff like that to get him outside the pocket and to have him make plays down the field. It really allowed for this Patriots offense to get jump-started. And Josh McDaniels really has done such a good job of adjusting his system and scheme to fit what Drake Maye does well. And Drake Maye is making so many plays that is really showing the development in his career thus far. This is the first 2 games, I believe, where he hasn't had a single turnover in back-to-back games. So just continuing to develop, playing good football, taking a profit, and becoming more and more comfortable in this scheme. But moving on to the offensive line here, I think that the offensive line actually got credited with giving up 4 sacks allowed. However, I think that it was really only 2 because I think that Drake Maye actually got tackled at the line of scrimmage for one of the sacks, and I believe he actually ran out of bounds 1 yard short to the line of scrimmage, so of course that counted as a sack as well. But I thought that the offensive line on the night did a pretty good job in pass protection. In particular, the left side, I was really watching Will Campbell, especially against this Buffalo matchup, just because of the depth and the amount of rushers that Buffalo can throw his way, whether it's Joey Bosa, Gregory Rousseau, and the linebackers that they could send on some blitzes. But in particular, I really wanted to watch the Gregory Rousseau matchup because Gregory Rousseau is one of the better pass rushers in terms of using his arm length. And of course, the story out on Will Campbell coming out of the draft was his shorter arm length. But I thought that Will Campbell really held his own in this matchup. And I believe it was actually a halftime stat where he only gave up 1 pressure in the first half. And of course, I haven't seen all the numbers yet. But I felt that Will Campbell and Jared Wilson both did a very good job in terms of pass protection in this game. And overall, I think that the offensive line got off to a little bit of a rocky start in pass protection, but they really buckled down. And whether it was just getting Drake Maye on movement or some designed kind of bootleg passes, it really allowed for this offensive line to have more success versus this Buffalo rush. And this is certainly going to be a continual trend of the season. But the offensive line did struggle a little bit in terms of getting the run game involved. They did have more success running to the outside than the inside, however. But if you take a look at all the carries from the backs, Travion Henderson, 6 attempts for 24 yards. Antonio Gibson, 6 attempts for 21 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, 7 attempts for 14 yards. There wasn't a ton of rushing yards really to be gained by the backs. And the more and more I've said it this season, this offense is at its best when it is balanced and it could set up the play-action game. And it was just a credit to the offensive line, Drake Maye, and the receivers that they were able to win this game, even though they weren't fully able to get the running game involved. But even more news, of course, the Ramondre Stevenson does fumble the ball again. However, Antonio Gibson did take a majority of the handoffs after that play. However, Gibson did get hurt on a special teams return, and we're wishing a speedy recovery to Gibby, of course. But that allowed for Travion Henderson to get a little bit more run in this game. I actually didn't see Travion Henderson on the field whatsoever except for special teams before the Antonio Gibson injury. However, Ramondre Stevenson had to stay active just due to the fact that the Patriots don't have a ton of bodies at running back. And that Gibson injury is going to affect this team. They're going to have to elevate someone from their practice squad. My guess would be Terrell Jennings here. But it's just a good job by Ramondre Stevenson of bouncing back, keeping his head in the game. He did finish with 2 touchdowns, had a couple of receptions as well. But as I've stated before, it's a fatal flaw, and he has to clean this up. Because the Patriots, even though they won this game, they could have won this game by more because they did not take advantage of several Buffalo miscues in that first half, and that certainly would have come back to haunt them. So it wasn't all pretty from an offensive standpoint, especially in that first half. But Ramondre Stevenson has to cover up the football. He cannot continue to put the ball on the ground because it's really hurting this team. And when it's a repeated error, there's not much the coaching staff can do, especially when he's one of the more gifted offensive players on this team, which he is. But if you keep putting the ball on the ground, they're not going to be able to play you. And luckily, he was able to wipe it off today. But if this continues to be a trend like it has been throughout his career these past 2 years, it's going to be really difficult for him to see the field, even though he's a great pass blocker. He's a solid receiving back. If you continue to put the ball on the ground, he's not going to receive any playing time. So I would expect Travion Henderson to get a lot more burn coming up, and especially if they have to elevate another guy due to the Antonio Gibson injury, I can see Ramondre Stevenson's snap count possibly taking a hit here. But overall, I think that the offense did a real nice job on the night, handling the noise and delivering big plays when needed, and especially that game-winning drive. You just love to see that from your second-year quarterback. His first career game-winning drive, Patriots are able to take the lead, and they did not look back. The 23-20 victory there, just a massive step from this offense, especially going on the road, and just a huge game from your quarterback, allowing this team to have some offensive success on the road. Moving over to the defense here, I think that the defense played about as well as you can going up against that Buffalo offense. And I think that they're actually the first defense this year to hold Buffalo under 30 points. And of course, they were aided by some Buffalo errors. Of course, a couple of turnovers by the Buffalo Bills, some on some miscommunications and others just on straight up fumbles. Credit Bobby Spillane there, forcing that ball out on Keon Coleman there. But I felt like a huge reason why the Patriots were able to come out victorious was them able to bunker down in the red zone. And I think that the Buffalo Bills only scored 2 touchdowns in the red zone today. And that's a big-time stat because the Patriots actually allowed 8 touchdowns on 9 scoring drives where other teams have been in the red zone. So the Patriots did a real nice job of forcing some field goals in that area, particularly in the first half, as well as I believe that Marcus Jones actually came away with a takeaway inside Buffalo's red zone there, or at least on the border of it. So the Patriots defense, they might have bent, but they did not break, and they did a really nice job of bunkering down. And overall, I think that's what they're going to have to do against these high-scoring offenses. You're not going to be able to shut them down, especially with a guy like Josh Allen. But if you're able to kind of force them into one mistake or not allow them to put up 7 every single time they have some scoring drives, that's going to be the difference between having a really good defense and allowing your offense to have a chance, and whether or not this team is going to kind of revert back to where they were these past couple of seasons there. But the Patriots continue to do a good job of getting pressure, and although they only had 1 sack on the day, they were getting pressure on Josh Allen. They were doing a solid job of containing him. Overall, he did have some pretty big runs on the night, but there's only so much that you could do, and I felt that there were several times, especially late in the game, where the Patriots were able to kind of contain their rush, force Josh Allen to the boundaries, and did not allow him to turn up the field and really beat them with his legs, especially getting outside of the pocket. And they really forced him to make some throws, whether it was across the middle that Christian Gonzalez had a huge pass defense on, and even in the red zone or in the end zone against Keon Coleman there, Christian Gonzalez had back-to-back, I think, pass deflections to end the Buffalo drive, forcing them for the field goal there for the tie. So big plays there from Gonzo. But like I said before, sometimes as a defensive line, you have to sacrifice your rush to keep a quarterback contained. And although Josh Allen was still able to kind of move out of the pocket in certain instances, the Patriots did a real nice job of playing with the boundary and not allowing him to turn up the field and beat him with his legs, as I said before. But I mean, guys were just making plays in this game. Marcus Jones, of course, had that big-time interception, but early on in the game had that big-time third-down pass defense to force that Buffalo punt. But I also want to give a ton of credit to the Patriots coaching staff because they did a really nice job of adjusting their defensive line substitutions. And in particular, I believe it was actually the first drive out of halftime where Buffalo went down and scored a touchdown. The Patriots actually had their strongest pass rushing unit down right when the Buffalo Bills got the ball. So it was around midfield where I believe the Buffalo Bills forced the Patriots to substitute. They had to take Christian Barmore and Milton Williams off the field to get them some rest. And they had guys like Anthony Jennings, Keon White in on their red zone trip where Buffalo was able to end up scoring. So the Patriots did a real nice job of mixing their pass rush substitutions later on in the game. I saw a lot more Anthony Jennings on early downs in compared to other downs where Christian Barmore and Milton Williams really didn't re-enter the game until Buffalo kind of passed the halfway point of the field. So real nice job by the Patriots coaching staff identifying that adjustment made by Buffalo, especially not allowing them to substitute in when they had a inferior defensive line on the field. So real nice job there by the Patriots coaching staff of adjusting to that and giving up the most resistance down near the red zone and allowing your strongest set of defenders back in there and not allowing Buffalo to score touchdowns in that area. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Patriots coaching staff, and that was something that I noticed during the game, and I really wanted them to make that adjustment, which of course they did. So that was very pleasant to see there. But of course, with Kayvon Vaughn Chase on out, we saw a lot more of Keon White. We saw a lot more of Joshua Farmer in this game. And although he did have that fumble recovery, and I think overall he played rather well, he did have that really, really poor penalty there with that personal foul on James Cook. And that gave Buffalo a lot of life. And the Patriots' defensive penalties once again let Buffalo get a ton of easy yardage. Of course, Jack Gibbons had a PI where he blatantly just kind of pushes someone out of bounds, which I get the idea if you could get away with it. And especially if they're the first to touch it, that's going to be a penalty on the offense. But you can't do that right in front of the official. And of course, Durden did end up getting that helmet-to-helmet penalty on Josh Allen there, the roughing the passer. There's nothing you could do about that. He's just trying to make a play on the quarterback there, and unfortunately, it was helmet-to-helmet there. But just these penalties, I thought that the Patriots did a solid job in the first half of really cleaning them up, but they kind of let themselves get away with that in the second half, and I thought that Buffalo was able to get a ton of easy yardage there due to penalty yardage. But I want to give a ton of credit to the Patriots' run defense in this game, and they did a really nice job of taking James Cook out of the game. I think on the night, James Cook only had 49 yards on 15 attempts. So the Patriots did a really nice job in run defense. And once again, really the only time that the Bills had frequent success running the football was Josh Allen scrambles. And of course, he ended up with 53 rushing yards on the night. However, a lot of that came on a 19-yard run. So Patriots did a real nice job of containing the running game from Buffalo, forcing them to be a one-dimensional passing attack. And of course, Buffalo still had their success, but the Patriots did a real nice job bunkering down in the red zone, and that was the keys to the game for me, which was not allowing touchdowns in the red zone and forcing Buffalo to be a one-dimensional team. And overall, I think that the Patriots defense passed with flying colors in this game. And now that you have Christian Gonzalez back, you have three really good corners, because Marcus Jones inside that slot. This team can play a ton of man, especially with the pressure that this defensive line gets. This Patriots defense is starting to shape into form here, and this is back-to-back weeks where the Patriots have allowed 20 points or less. And I understand that the Panthers' offense isn't that great, but you just shut down one of the best offenses in the NFL on the road. So this is hopefully something that the Patriots defense can continue to have this momentum. And they got some easier teams going up here on the schedule. So let's see if the Patriots defense could take advantage of some bad offensive football. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this breakdown here. The Patriots move to 3-2, get this huge win on the road against Buffalo, go to 2-0 in the division. So that's certainly going to have some playoff implications later on in the season. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and hopefully I'll check you all out in the next one.